Hello, hello, and welcome to Into the MoTaverse. I am Rosie Sherry. I'm the host of this podcast. And today I have Julio de Lima. He's from Brazil. Hello, Julio. Welcome to Into the MoTaverse.
Hey Rosie, it's a pleasure to be here. I was looking for this moment actually.
That's funny because, sometimes I don't know what people think of me or think of the MoTaverse, especially if we haven't really had any contact before. And I think this is one example of that. I guess is like we've probably been aware of each other, but never taken the time to have a conversation. And Into the MoTaverse is my excuse to have those conversations. And I feel like you're up to some interesting things that I'd personally love to hear about. But I'd love other people in the MoTaverse to be aware of as well. So yeah, would you like to give yourself a little intro? Tell people about yourself.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. My name is Julio or Julio or
Okay.
Julio in Portuguese. It's funny because in Portuguese we have some pronunciations that use some
Okay.
muscles that is not common, you know. But the
Yeah.
better way to pronounce my name is like you start with bonjour and Julio.
Okay.
Then it
Julio.
will, yeah. So as Rosie said, I am a Brazilian, but currently I'm living here in the United States in Orlando. I started in software testing in 2009. Before that, I was a developer. I developed
Okay.
software in PHP. And by the way, I create a lot of websites to help to pay my wedding party, in PHP.
Awesome.
I'm old. I'm old already.
Uh,
And I saw an opportunity to start in testing and be able to grow. And since then, I never left this field. I had the opportunity to work in many different fields, but the majority of the time was working as a consultant, giving trainings, delivering tutorials. I've been working as a speaker in conferences since 2013, but
okay.
to work to deliver talks in international conferences around 2020 at Star East. Yeah. And
Yeah.
since then, I've been speaking and working as a tester. And in 2019, I created my first software testing training. And so far, I already trained more than 22,000 people in Brazil. Yeah,
Wow.
that's a bit about myself.
That's amazing. Julio. I
Wow, you got it.
I got it. I got it.
Wow. Congrats.
And my brain automatically goes to like the Spanish way of saying it because like I'm half Colombian and I lived
Hmm.
in Colombia for a while, so I always say Julio,
Hmm.
like a quite quiet J. But Julio. There you go.
Yeah.
Uh,
A lot of people from a lot of how to say Spanish people tell me that they have a Uncle Julio, and that's why the majority of people call me Julio. Yeah.
actually, I have family with Julio, so yeah, it feels funny and natural to say that.
Yeah.
All the South American names, Colombian names, Spanish
Yeah.
names. It's funny. Um, but yeah, it's I find the Brazilian side of it interesting because I've not really. Whilst we have some members from Brazil, I've not really been exposed to what the testing community is like from that perspective and the needs and obviously like different market conditions and maybe conferences or events that might happen there. Probably a different style from Europe and the US, right? So I'm curious, like, what's been your goal with teaching Brazilians, and how has that shown up? And like you say you've got thousands of people that you've helped teach. Like, how have you gone about that?
Yeah. So the Brazilian community is pretty big. The Brazilian testing community is pretty big. Just on my LinkedIn, I have around 50 or 30,000 of people are my connections and are related to software testing. And in my YouTube channel, where I talk about software testing, I have more than 60,000 people.
Awesome.
And the majority of the audience are testers, so this is just to show you a little bit about the size of the community. And I don't have all the testers following me, so this kind of give a little bit a sense of how many people are there in the software testing field. And I started to train people because I noticed that when we know more about the foundations in software testing, and I mean mentality, techniques, process, how do I say, the way that you position yourself, if you understand that, you can be more valued by the market, so your boss will recognize you, and you will earn more money, you will gain more confidence, you will be able to show more your value, that's why I started to train the testers. And also because in the very beginning of my career, it was very difficult for me to find out materials where I can consume in a easy way. And then I struggle a lot to consume content, and once I learned that, the first thing that I did was to start converting that complex content in a easy way to consume. And nowadays, my students say, "Hey, I like your trainings because you how to say, explain these complex things in a easy manner," And that's exactly what I want in the beginning of my career as a trainer.
How does it differ? So, like when you were beginning, how did you uh, learn? How did you go about learning, or what was available at that point, and how does it differ from today?
Wow, a lot of things changed. uh, so first of all, the Brazilians aren't doesn't have a very good how to say, education on English as a second language. So the majority of the Brazilians doesn't speak English. Don't speak English.
Yeah,
Um, so this is one thing, just to set the context here, because at that time, back in 2009, the majority of the software testing books were in English, and there are no translation to Portuguese. And Google Translate don't even was the way that it is nowadays, so in order to read a book and understand the context, you need to spend a lot of time, months maybe, so this was one point. The people that used to write about software testing at that time was not a lot, because testing in Brazil, I would say, is pretty new. In 2009, we didn't have a very big community and writers, so the ones that write about software testing as a, how to say, just a small part of the community. So at that moment, I had the books, I have some trainings, and we had forums as well, those email forums. Do you remember that?
yeah. Google
Yeah,
groups and
yeah,
stuff like
Google
that.
groups, yeah, Yahoo groups, so
Yahoo
yeah.
groups. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the ways that I use to consume content, And I remember that this is a funny story, because I heard about JMeter at that time, 2010 more or less.
Yeah.
And then I saw the tool, and the tool is still the very same way
Oh,
that I saw when I met it for the first time. It's like very rustic, raw. It's like Java Swing UI
yeah.
style, And I
Yeah.
was like, oh gosh, how can I operate this tool? This is so complex. And then I started to read some some materials, and I stuck. And then I remember that in order to overcome that situation, I had to send an email to a specialist. I can talk about him afterwards if you want. He become my mentor. And then wait for him some days to have him looking at my problem and answering my question, because I wasn't able to find the answer in any place. So this is the kind of situation that I used to live in the beginning of my career. That's crazy to think about it nowadays.
Yeah, it's so easy. It's so easy to forget as well, and it's almost like therapy, or it's almost like cathartic to talk about it. It's like, wow, the world has moved on, and sometimes you don't realize how much it's moved on until you start reflecting. Because yeah, I remember a lot of those things, and like I've been in testing since the year 2000, and often I like to think back in chunks of like 5 or 10 years. It's like, what was the world like back then? I say, oh my god, um, and like compare it to today. Like I was looking at your YouTube channel the other day, and it's in Brazilian, right? It's in Portuguese,
In
but there was
Portuguese,
an
like,
auto translate thing, and I didn't even realize that was a thing at the moment. But I was like, oh wow, this is like just automatically, translating, and like
that's true.
like your challenge of like trying to translate stuff is like that's so much easier now. Not perfect, but it's like on instant on YouTube. I'm not quite sure about like the technicalities of setting that up, but I'm like, wow, this is an amazing thing of like my mind went to like we can almost bring the community together so much easier now, even when we don't speak the same languages. It's like there's a barrier that has been dropped, and the features of like Google Meet, and I think there's like instant uh, translation, right? I think I'm not sure if that's like widely available, but if it's not out for everyone, then it will be soon, I guess. But it's like, wow, this is from a knowledge perspective, from a career knowledge perspective, from a tech perspective, it's pretty exciting to see how we could potentially collaborate easier, even if we don't speak the same language. It's crazy.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. And after 5 years from now, probably we will listen to this episode, you know, and
Yeah,
then we will say, "Oh, what these guys are talking about? This is so common today." How they communicate before that.
it's true. It's true. We can laugh at our previous selves, and yeah, it's just partly scary, um, partly exciting. And I guess for me, like thinking about like the MoTaverse and thinking about the quality and testing industry, my mind goes to okay, how can we support the people better? What can we do better that we haven't been doing before? Because we can't keep doing things the same way, because the world just changes too fast. And like we've done conferences and we still do conferences, but we can't just keep doing those and thinking that that's the only solution going forward. It never has been the only solution, but it's just like we have to get more creative, and as technology changes, I guess. So my mind is definitely kind of trying to explore those things for, I guess, professions in general, but in my context, it's kind of applying it to testing and quality. Um, yeah, it's pretty exciting. I mean, how do you think that will, or have you seen anything like that impact like the like Brazilian market, or how are Brazilians adapting to the changing world, AI ability to tap into networks easily? I'd be curious to know if you have any insights into that.
Yeah. What I see in Brazil right now, I think that is the same that I see in other countries, like here in the U.S., which is people trying to understand how they are going to adapt, to what is happening right now. So I think that one thing that affects a lot our community is that we were always how they say considered by our bosses, our managers, as a part of the software of the software development process that is how they say slow, or either how they say bottleneck sometimes, do you know?
Yeah.
And now when our managers go to a conference where they see people saying, hey, now you can replace your people by AI, you know? If a person that knows a lot about foundations in software testing hears something like that, they will say, it's not that way that it works, you know. But if our managers listen to that, they will say, wow, I will do it right now, you know, because they don't have all the knowledge that they need. And then as a tester, I need to figure it, first of all, figure out how my work will be impacted by this kind of new technologies. And second, how can I prove, how can I show to my managers that my work is still valuable more than nothing?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's like it's a tough moment, not just for Brazilians but for all the community. The thing in Brazil is that in Brazil we still needing to explain the value of software testing for some companies. You know, here in the US, I noticed that we don't need to explain anymore. Companies just look for the software development life cycle and say, we need testers. In Brazil, we still like, oh, do we need testers? Do you know? I heard, talking to some people here in the US, I heard that we already faced the situation here in the US in the past. So we got a crisis related to software quality and then overcome that. And now they understand that software testing is really needed. But in Brazil, we're still in this transition. Like people will suffer a lot before to notice that software quality and software testing should be there. How they say, independent of the way that, regardless of the way that you are doing that, it should be there. But nowadays, I think that they need to prove themselves, to adapt to AI, and to show their managers that it's very important, so they will not suffer from lack of quality in the future. Do you know? This is more or less how I see it right now. Do you know?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because I've had a couple conversations recently. So, like, one was like someone looking for a new role, and they felt under pressure to learn AI because recruiters were saying you have to have all these AI testing skills, and they were, a bit disillusioned by it because say, well, how do you get those skills if you're not working in it? You can learn some things, but not everything. And then at the same time, like a lot of conversations I've had is like a lot of quality people doing less test automation and allocating that to the developers to actually do the automation with some input from quality and testing people, but the overall management of it is leaning more on developers rather than testers. Um, so I was thinking about that. It's like, it's like there's all this pressure to learn all these skills, but then when you actually talk to people, things are changing differently behind the scenes. So it's like there's not as much test automation requirements, and actually testers are doing many different things, but it's not necessarily just test automation. But then, like when you were talking, it's like you're kind of saying, like, well, the US and Europe, they probably know that they need testers, and I would agree with that. But then I spoke to someone just this week who's first time I met this person, works in tech, but understands testing and has a bit of experience in testing. But then she was telling me, it's like the clients that I work with, they just refuse to do any testing. They refuse to invest anything in it. And so it's like I think there's still stories, even like everywhere you go, that people refuse to invest in testing. They just ship stuff without testing, and all these problems um, come end up coming anyways. Um, but I guess like if I'm trying to like piece together all the knowledge, is like sometimes we can assume that testing happens in US based countries, products, or European ones because we're perhaps perceived to be more evolved. But sometimes when you dig into it, that's not the truth, and maybe it's because like the people who are talking about it are saying they're doing testing, and yes, they are. But then beneath the surface, there's still all the stories of people who are still not doing it. um,
Yeah, yeah. It's
yeah,
because testing is a kind of abstract word, right? And then everyone can say it's testing. I mean, if I talk to a developer and say, "Hey, are you testing the application that you are developing?" Maybe he wrote just one unit test and how they say, uh, checked just one condition, of the screen, and then he said, "Yes, I'm testing," and this is the message that will
yeah,
pass. However, I can talk to Rosie and say, "Hey, Rosie, are you testing that?" And then you say, "Yes, I did. Exploratory, applied software testing techniques, test automation in so many layers." Do you understand what I mean? Both are testing, but
yeah,
as you said, to dig, when you start to dig, maybe you discover that it's not that good.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting, right? And I think partly we have to be careful about how we talk about it as well. It's like it's good to share the stories, um, but then if it's impacting what companies are looking for when they recruit, then it becomes a mismatch of expectations, right? And then people can't get hired because the recruiters think you need to have a certain amount of skills or experience, and when you don't actually need that. So I don't have answers for those kind of things, but I think it's important for people to be aware of it, and maybe for us to speak to recruiters as well, or anyone involved in hiring, um, to ensure that we can be more realistic as well, when we're looking for things. Um, but I know you've done some research into, is it the QA market? What kind of research have you been doing?
So what I've been doing is to try to understand the market based on the job postings. So
Okay.
I what I did is I created a mechanism that involves both, how to say, manual and also semi-automated tools, to collect the information from LinkedIn, and then I start to evaluate all the data that I collect. So what I do basically is I web scraping. I go to
Yeah.
LinkedIn, I search by certain keywords. For example, software tester, quality engineering manager. I have a bunch of keywords that will differ depending on the country, right? In Brazil, we have names in Portuguese and in English, and in the United States, it's just in English, for example. So I have a bunch of keywords that represents software testing positions. Then I do a web scraping, navigating through one by one of the pages from LinkedIn, collecting these job opportunities, and then I classify this postings, because some testers are not software testers. Do you understand?
Okay.
Some quality analysts are not software quality analysts. So I have a kind of heuristic that helped me to differentiate what is a software testing job from what is not. And then having all this data, I start to analyze some, how they say, variables that how they say are important for my research. For example, does it requires agile knowledge? Does it requires test automation? What are the software the programming languages required? Does it requires test automation? What kind of test management tool it requires? Things like that. And then after getting all this information, then I present it to the market. I did it 2 times already, um,
Okay.
for Brazil. Oh, sorry, for Brazil, four times already, and in the United
Okay.
States, I did just one in a conference called TestFlix. Yeah,
Okay.
this is a summary of what I did.
Yeah. And so you're capturing it per country, so like jobs per country. Is that the
Hmm.
general approach? And
Yeah,
what
jobs.
kind what kind of have what have you learned from it? What have you discovered? Is there anything interesting? Uh, anything that
Yes.
surprised you?
Yeah. So the first thing, um, so in the United States, the amount of job positions that I collected back in
Yeah.
October was a total of 2,873. Okay.
Okay.
So this is the final number. I already removed all the non-software testing positions. Okay, which is a big number from my
Yeah.
perspective. You know, in Brazil we had 529 job
Okay.
postings. And what I discovered in the United States is that there is a big, how they say, that the names, that the titles of software testing for the job postings is a really mess. You know, it's like
Okay.
we have we have 14 oh sorry 1435 unique
Oh,
variations
wow.
of the software testing title, you know.
Wow.
It's, I mean, it's crazy. It's like um, software developer engineering test SDAT AM docs, quality assurance engineer Teradine, manual tester, manual quality tester, tester quality engineer. You know, it's like there's a big confusion and lack of standardization, when we talk about the title in the job postings. So
Yeah.
it makes us that is looking for a job to spend a lot of time and to have a painful time looking for jobs, for example.
That's interesting,
um
right? Because
yeah,
actually that makes me think, because one thing we're doing at MOT, we're kind of building our own platform, trying to own our data better, encouraging people to have profiles and update their profiles. Um, and one of the entries we have actually is a job title. And
hmm,
I have it on my to-do list to analyze all the job titles of people. And I looked at it a while back. I haven't looked at it recently, but quality engineer was definitely one of the like top job
hmm,
titles, which I thought, that is the shift at the moment, right? But it's like if we look back like 5 years ago, no one was really using that as a job title.
yeah,
There's
that's
very,
true.
very few people. I just, that's super interesting. But then I also think now that we're talking, it would be interesting to match it with job postings, right? It's like,
Exactly.
does this does the actual data of people's job titles match what people are recruiting for? Can we
Mm,
simplify it? Is there a way to communicate people's actual job titles and encourage employers to potentially simplify the job titles that they are recruiting for? Is that a good thing? Is it helpful? I think
mhm.
it's good to simplify personally, especially with like
Yeah.
1,400 different variations.
Yeah,
It's,
this is I
it's
mean, this is a big number. It's crazy. What I advise, the advice that I give to my students is try to use a title that reflects what you do currently. Right? We cannot lie when defining our
yeah,
titles, but try to use the majority of keywords that the recruiters will use when they are searching for you. So, for example, in Brazil, I discovered that test analyst in Portuguese would be analista de testes, is one of the most searched title around the whole amount of job postings. And the
okay,
second one is QA. And then if you add something like test analyst, parenthesis, QA, you will have a lot of recruiters coming to your profile in Brazil,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, yeah. This was
Yeah.
the strategy.
Yeah. And I guess, like, it's okay to use different job titles to serve that purpose, right? It's like you don't
Hmm.
have to always use what your employers give you, as long as the truth is still there and it's just a communication tool, right?
Exactly, exactly. Another thing that I found very interesting is related to the I don't know how to say that in English, but model of working, like remote,
Yeah.
on-site, or hybrid. I don't know what would be a better term for that, but yeah,
Yeah.
um, we have in the United States, it's like 10%. Only 10% of the job postings are fully remote.
Okay.
25% are hybrid, and 65% are on-site. While in Brazil, we have 35% of the job postings that are remote. So in comparison to the United States, it's just 10. Hybrid in Brazil is 41%, while in the United States is 25%. And the on-site positions in Brazil are 24%, while in the United States is 65%.
Yeah. I'd be interested in how it compares year on year, because also, like with COVID, everyone kind of went remote. And I guess stories that I'm hearing at the moment is that people looking for jobs now, um, on one side, the salaries are lower than what they were before. So they have to accept lower salaries. But then on the other side is like, there's not a lot of fully remote jobs anymore. Um, and they're either hybrid or, I think most of them are, my gut feeling, I don't have any exact data for it, but my gut feeling is that most of them are hybrid. Um, but then I'm wondering, is like, are they hybrid because it's they have to advertise them as hybrid just as a protection way of, sometimes they have to get them into the office. But I wonder in practice whether they're actually mostly just remote, but they're just put in hybrid to uh, have that protection to, um, yeah, because I don't know if, like, if they say 2 days in the office, actually in reality they might only go in once a month. Uh, because people, yeah, they just don't seem to do it as much. I don't know, but yeah, that's definitely like a shift to lack of fully remote positions, which seems to be making it difficult for some people who just love the full remote thing. I'm personally fully remote, and I don't think I could do anything else.
Me
I
too.
also think, yeah, I also think there's, like, real accessibility conflict with that as well. Like people who actually have to be fully remote for many reasons, family or accessibility needs, or disabilities, stuff like that. It becomes actually questionable legally, I think, whether companies can enforce that, at least in Europe, I guess. But I think, maybe there will be some interesting cases around that in the future, where, is it legal to say to not offer a remote position when you can? Um, and yeah, I guess Europe and US. Well, I'm not sure about the US at the moment, but at least Europe tend to have more regulation around those kind of things.
Good, good. Yeah. And the final thing that I brought today is related to test automation. In Brazil, 74% of the job postings are requiring test automation for the testers. And in the United States, it's a total of 65% of the job postings. And this is a shift based on what I understood for software testing through the time, right? Because we used to have a test automation engineer or test automation analyst position that has been disappearing through the time because the QA or QA engineer are basically observing this as part of their activities, and then in order to be able to join a QA position, you need to know test automation. At least in Brazil, this is already a true story, And I have a lot of students that, as you mentioned before, is a person that was working and there is no test automation demands, and then they lost their jobs, and when they come now to the market, they try to find out another job and they can't get approved in a interview because they don't have experience in test automation, which is a kind of a crisis for me, because there are a lot of people that is having a tough moment to get relocated because they don't have this experience.
Yeah, and I don't know what we do about that. Like, just generally as human beings, because it does feel like really unfair, like to judge people so. I don't know what the right term is, but just to focus so much on skills people have and not what they can develop. And like the more I learn about learning or how humans learn or how humans build up skills is the best way to learn, generally speaking, obviously. But it's like you learn and you practice at the same time, right? It's like learning test automation without a real project to work on will only get you so far. It's when you're doing the test automation in a real world environment that you actually learn so much more than any course could probably ever teach you. Um, and yeah, I guess it's just something that I'm always disappointed about, where people get judged on what they don't have right now, but where they could probably fairly easily develop the skills if they were given that opportunity. Um, I don't have any solutions for that personally, but I'd love to be able to somehow change that, for organizations to change that. But I don't know. It's hard, right? I don't know if you have any thoughts around that, or maybe now, like with AI, things are more shifting to AI. It's like, you know, we have the same problems with that, I think, where people aren't exposed to AI, so they can't learn, or there's only so much they can learn until they get into an environment where they're actually testing. So it's like, how can we change our culture as organizations to invest in that and know that people joining the teams want to actively learn or have that kind of curiosity? Yeah, I don't know. Any thoughts around that? It's just random thoughts.
Yeah, this is difficult. I think that a lot of the challenges that we have nowadays in software testing is because the managers doesn't understand um, our potential as testers, and sometimes we as testers doesn't show a lot as well. But at least from our side, talking from a community perspective, we can teach each other, right? And say, hey, this is how you can position yourselves so your managers can understand that you provide value. Even if you don't have coding skills, you provide a big value, and then they will understand that you can learn there. However, I haven't found a way to go straight to the managers yet, because I think that this kind of opportunity for us to talk to managers would make them to understand better what how they say how testers can evolve,
Yeah.
inside their organizations. What I try to do, but I didn't get very engaged to it, was to start talking in management conferences, but it's very
Okay.
difficult to get accepted.
Yeah.
I did it once, and the audience was CTOs. So I was talking about how software testing is nowadays, and how we provide value. And that was a very good conference. But I had just 13 CTOs in the audience, So I would like to have a lot, to just talk out loud and say, hey, look, it's more than what you are thinking. It's not just to click.
Yeah.
I think that this could be one solution, and the other one, from a community perspective, I think we can start doing, how to say, some kind of projects where people can get experience by testing and creating their portfolios, like on GitHub, for example. So hey, here is a software we'll just build, let's automate it and then create our portfolios, because this will give them the opportunity to at least show code done and get more experience. So yeah,
Yeah.
these are the two ways that I see. One, reaching out straight to the managers, which is very difficult nowadays, or two, helping people to build their portfolios.
Yeah, I have two thoughts on that actually. One about the managers. I agree, and actually, with this podcast, I've been reaching out to people who used to be testers but are now actually engineering managers. So that's like my first step of speaking to manager type people now that have come from that background. And then maybe as I do more of that, then I can start speaking to other managers who aren't who don't specifically have a background in testing and QA. Um, and maybe once they've seen that I've been speaking to other engineering managers, then they'll be more receptive to speaking to me, perhaps. Um, and also, it would just be interesting, I think, just to speak to engineering managers who have a background in quality and engineering managers who don't, and start to like understand like the different perceptions of or understandings that they might have. Um, I could start just talking test and speak to people without a quality background and see if they understand me. That could be a funny test. But yeah, and then also as you're saying about portfolios, one of the things that we're doing at MOT is we've got MOT profile pages, so people can when they write or do a talk for MOT, it appears on the profiles. You can add a bio, but now you can earn badges and you can earn stars for everything you do. So a bit like GitHub stars, but for every contribution you make. And that's kind of building up a portfolio. So it's like trying to get employers and individuals to see that as a way to kind of invest in themselves and show they're learning. So personally, I find that quite exciting at the moment. It's quite fun to see people's stars and their badges grow, and seeing people trying to collect badges as well. They're like checking out what they can earn, and to me, it's so much fun at the moment doing that.
Yeah, I got some badges from you, so I'm very happy. And this is this is crazy how it changed the vibe. So I was in that day like, oh gosh, today is the delivery day. Oh, I was so stressed. And then I popped and the mail popped up saying, "Hey, Rosie, give you a badge." And I was like, "Wow, this is great."
It's so much fun, and like you'll get a badge for coming on this podcast. So we'll custom design a badge for this podcast, and once it goes live, you'll get a badge, and it's so much fun, right? And
Yeah, that's true.
and sometimes people think gamification doesn't work, but I think when it's done nicely and with care and with fun and all these things, for us it seems to be working at the moment. But it's a way for us to say thank you as well for like participating. Um, but hopefully, future employers can look at that and see you as a good person, someone who knows what they're talking about. So there's multiple angles that we're trying to think of how useful it can actually be. But it's a lot of fun. Um, we've got a 404 badge as well, so um,
Was it
which is
was it found?
some people think it's like for seeing like an error page, but it's actually once you've visited the MoTaverse 404 times, then you get a 404 badge. So that's trying to encourage people back. But we like using error numbers. We find it quite funny. um,
That's great. Funny. Just remember. Oh, so this is completely off topic, but this is completely off topic. But well, we were talking here about 404, and then I remember one thing. Yesterday I was teaching API skills for API testing skills for a group of students, and then well, they were asking me how they can remember better the status code numbers, like 404, 200, 201. And then I showed them two websites. One is the HTTP cats, and the other one is the HTTP dogs. Have you seen that?
yeah, yeah, it's what we always go to remember, like what they are. It's so funny. We want to build our own from that, like our own version, but we haven't done it yet. But yeah, it's yeah,
It'll
and
be
that
good.
shows like it's such a great educational tool, right? I think
Yeah,
those
it's
those websites are great. It's just like it's fun, it's educational. We've got a glossary now, for example, where people can add their own definitions for terms, and they earn badges and stars for it. But yeah, it's great just building that up, and it becomes a reference point as well.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's great that it's community focused and people can add their own understanding or own way of explaining what a term is, and none of them are wrong. So people don't have to argue over like the correct terminology because they can all be right. We can all interpret things in different ways, and that's okay. And that like encourages like diversity of thinking as well, I think.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, learning should be more fun, right?
Yeah, it should. It should. Uh, I mean, yeah, it's part of our day by day, right? Right, like a profession, like a person. I think that uh, when you learn in a fun manner, you get more interested in. I see that in my daughter. I have a daughter. She's 11 years old, and she's very good on math, but she's struggling a lot with science, so when she come home and say, hey, dad, I need to study for science because we have a science test. So I literally start to think about how to teach her about that in a, how to say, fun manner, like in how to say, interpreting some
Yeah,
things, or changing the tone of my voice, or creating some exercises, different exercises, and I try to do the same when I am teaching testing as well. It's like changing the tone, do some pauses, collect some, how to say, physical materials to show stuff, drawing boxes in the screen and etc. This helps a lot.
yeah, I agree. I agree. We have to get more creative as well. I think creativity is a big part of it, and um, there's no choice but to be creative as the world is changing. Um,
Mhm.
but yeah, I think this has been a great conversation, Julio. Julio, um, I appreciate it so much. Is there anything else that you would like to end this conversation on? Any final words? Anything that we didn't mention that you think deserves mentioning?
Oh, I think we covered everything that was in my mind. I just want to how to say, to thank you for this opportunity. Because I always see MOT around. I had the opportunity to know more about you because I was a judge of the a, how to say, award for software QA
Okay.
testers this year, and then I got impressed with everything that you achieved so far and all the contributions that you gave to the software testing community worldwide. So when you invited me, I was like, wow, look at me, man. So I'm very happy to be here today. Yeah, this is amazing. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's been amazing, really. It has, and just yeah, the laughter, the fun. It's been really
Yeah,
good,
yeah, for
and
sure.
yeah, I appreciate it too, and I hope I can keep doing more of this and reach out to more people. But yeah, it's been amazing getting to know you as well, and I hope more people will get to know you as well, and you can earn
Yeah,
some stars and badges along the way as well. Who knows what will come?
yeah, for sure. So, if people want to find me, I am on LinkedIn. You can just type JULIO. I think that will be around in the episode, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I've been sharing content on YouTube, on Instagram. I love Instagram, by the way. They know.
Okay.
Yeah, I share content there. It's more quick content, and also I've been speaking at conferences about API testing, mainly
Yeah.
API testing and the usage of Gen AI to accelerate processes. So yeah, if you guys see me around, just reaching out, I will be more than happy to chat and to helping anyway. Yeah, just count on me.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much, Julio. And I'll see you in the MoTaverse.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much.